Something happened to me during the night shift, and I still don't know if I managed to get out of there. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I work, or used to work, as a night security guard at the Blue Star Motel, one of those forgotten buildings on Route 9 between Ashford and nowhere. You know, the kind of place you drive past and think, who the heck still stays there? Well, I was the one who looked after those who stayed there. The shift started at 10 at night and went until 6 in the morning. 8 hours of silence, flashing blue neon lights, and the constant hum of that old sign on the facade. The motel had 18 rooms arranged in an L shape, a reception area in the center, and a gravel parking lot that creaked under every step. The building was from the 70s. Everything there smelled of old cigarettes, damp carpet, and bad decisions. My routine was simple, a round every hour. I checked the doors, reception, bathrooms, laundry room, back exit, empty pool area. I locked everything. I wrote it down in the report. I went back to my chair behind the counter. I watched any old trashy TV. I waited for time to pass. I didn't believe in any of it. Ghosts, demons, bad energy, none of that. I was 34 years old, recently divorced, and had chronic insomnia. My fear was real. Overdue bills, loneliness, growing old in that hole. The supernatural, that was for people who had time to believe in nonsense. Until that Thursday night, first round, 12:15 a.m., everything normal. I locked the side door that led to the back parking lot, that faded green metal door with the heavy latch that made a satisfying click when turned. I went back to reception. 15 minutes later, I went to get coffee in the staff lounge. The door was open, not wide open, just ajar, as if someone had forgotten to close it properly. I looked down the empty hallway. I listened. Nothing. Just the wind coming in, cold and damp, carrying the smell of wet asphalt. I didn't lock it properly, I thought. I closed it again. This time I pulled twice to make sure the latch was secure. I went back to the counter. 20 minutes later, I walked down the hallway again. The door was open. Again. My stomach clenched, not from fear, from irritation. I was tired. I wanted that shift to end quickly, and now I had to deal with a broken lock. I grabbed the flashlight, went over there, inspected the lock. Nothing. It worked perfectly. I locked it for the third time. I stood there, staring at the door, just to be sure. I took a deep breath. I felt like an idiot. I turned my back and went back. 3 steps later, I heard it. Bang. The sound of the latch opening. I froze. I turned around slowly. The door was ajar again, and I swear I saw the doorknob finish turning. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I stood there, holding the flashlight as if it would protect me from something, trying to process what I had just seen. The doorknob had moved. I saw it. Or I thought I saw it. Faulty mechanism, I thought. Loose spring. Something to do with the wind pressure. I needed it to be that. Anything beyond that meant accepting something I wasn't willing to accept. I locked the door again. This time, I leaned a plastic chair against it. Extra weight, improvised. If I opened it again, at least I'd hear the chair scrape on the floor. I went back to the reception area. I sat down. I wrote on the report, "Side door, lock malfunction, check maintenance." My hand trembled slightly as I wrote. I pretended it was because of the cold coffee. 1:30 in the morning, second official round. I started down the east corridor. The men's restroom door was next to the reception desk, locked, just as I'd left it. I went straight ahead. The laundry room door, open. I stopped. I had locked that door, I remembered. It had been on the first round, right after the side door. I went in. The smell of laundry detergent and dampness. 3 old machines lined up, a stained sink, a shelf with cleaning products. Nothing out of place, but that feeling was wrong. The air was thick, heavy, as if something had just escaped from there. I listened to my own breathing, too fast, too shallow. The fluorescent light flickered at irregular intervals, making shadows dance on the walls. I locked it again. I made a mental note. I continued my rounds. The back door, the same as before. Open. The chair had been pushed aside, not knocked over, not kicked, just moved. Carefully. My heart started beating faster. The pool area was empty. The iron gate I always locked with a padlock was loose, swaying slightly in the wind. The padlock was still there, hanging from the shackle, but open. I remembered locking it. I always did. Room 12, the door ajar. That made me stop completely. The rooms were never open, never. I didn't have a master key for all of them, but room 12 had been empty for weeks. The lock had been locked from the inside since the last time the cleaning staff left. I pushed the door open slowly. She groaned against the hinges. The room was dark, only the light from the parking lot filtering through the thin curtain. Bed made, smell of mildew. Nothing wrong, but everything wrong at the same time. Something was different. I couldn't say what it was. I could only feel it. I closed the door. My hand was sweating as I gripped the doorknob. I practically ran back to the reception area, trying not to look scared, because I wasn't scared. I was confused, angry, tired, but mostly, I was starting to notice a pattern. I grabbed a sheet of paper and started sketching the motel layout. I marked each door that I had opened on my own. Side door, back, laundry room, east corridor, back door, outside exit, pool gate, west outside area, bedroom 12, south wing. I connected the dots with a line. Here you go. They formed a path that ended somewhere I hadn't been before. I stared at that drawing for far too long. The line I had traced snaked through the motel like a snake, connecting each open door in a sequence that couldn't possibly be a coincidence. Side door, laundry room, backyard, swimming pool, bedroom 12, and if I kept following, where would it end? It was 2:40 in the morning. The motel was in a silence that seemed solid. No wind, no crickets, not even the distant hum of cars on the highway. Only the blue neon flashing outside, casting that ghostly light through the dirty windows. I decided to test it. I grabbed the flashlight, went to the laundry room door, the same one that had opened by itself before, and locked it. This time, I stood there, still, watching. I counted in my mind. 1 minute, 2, 3. My breath echoed in the narrow hallway. I could hear my own heart pounding in my ears. The fluorescent light above my head began to flicker faster, as if reacting to my presence. At 4 minutes, I heard it. Bang! The sound came from inside the laundry room. The doorknob began to turn, slowly, deliberately, as if someone on the other side was testing, seeing if I was paying attention. I took a step back. My mouth went completely dry. The door opened, by itself, inch by inch, creaking softly, until it was ajar just enough for me to see the darkness inside. Nothing came out. Nobody showed up. But I felt it. A presence, not physical, not visible, but observing, waiting. This isn't happening, I whispered to myself. My voice sounded weak, pathetic. This isn't happening. But it was. I backed down the hallway, my eyes fixed on the open door. When I reached the reception desk, my leg hit the corner of the counter, and the pain brought me back. I was sweating cold. My hands were trembling. I picked up the drawing again. I looked at the line connecting the doors. I traced the sequence with my finger. From room 12 onwards, the path led to the south corridor, and at the end of that corridor, there was only one place. Room 7. I had never been inside room 7. There was no reason to be. It was empty, like so many others. But now, looking at my shaky scribble on the paper, I knew. You knew. Everything was leading me there. It wasn't someone breaking into the motel. It wasn't vandalism. It wasn't a broken lock. It wasn't my tired mind playing tricks on me. It was the motel. He was guiding me. I put down the pen. I took a deep breath. I tried to think rationally, but rationality had left a long time ago. Now it was just instinct. And my instinct screamed something very clear. Don't go there. But I knew I would go. Because if I didn't, it wouldn't stop. The doors would keep opening. The path would keep forming. And sooner or later, I would have to face what was at the end of it. I looked at the clock. It was 3:12 in the morning. There were still almost 3 hours left until the end of my shift. 3 hours was too long. I grabbed the flashlight. I stepped out from behind the counter. My footsteps echoed on the worn floor as I walked down the hallway. Every door I passed was now ajar. All of them. As if they were watching me, guiding me, pushing me. When I got to the front of room 7, I stopped. The door was closed, but I heard something from the other side. Breathing. Slow. Heavy. Damp. Someone. Or something. I was waiting. If this made you uncomfortable, wait for the next chapter. I stood there in front of that door long enough to feel ridiculous. Part of me wanted to go back to the reception area, lock the counter door, and wait for the sun to rise, to pretend none of this was happening, but the breathing continued. On the other side of the door, deep, rhythmic, like someone fast asleep, or pretending to sleep. I placed my hand on the doorknob. The metal was icy, too cold for a spring night. My fingers clung to it as if it were ice, and when I turned it, I felt resistance, not mechanical. Something reluctant, as if the door itself didn't want to be opened. But she gave in. The creaking was long, loud, painful, and then silence. Breathing had stopped. I pushed the door all the way open and went inside. Room 7 was identical to the others. A double bed against the wall, a bedside table with a yellowish lamp, a small round table with 2 chairs, a small bathroom at the back, faded beige wallpaper, damp stains on the ceiling, worn carpet with cigarette burns. But something was wrong. The bed was unmade, crumpled sheets, sunken pillow, as if someone had just gotten up. But the room had been empty for weeks. It should to be empty. The lamp was on, a weak orange light that didn't reach the corners. The shadows there were too dense, too dark. The air smelled mold, old sweat, something sweet and rotten underneath. My stomach churned. I took another step. The carpet was damp beneath my feet. That's when I saw the mirror. It hung on the wall opposite the bed, framed in dark wood. The surface was hazy, as if someone had taken a hot bath and the steam hadn't yet dissipated. But nobody had taken a shower. I knew that. I approached. My reflection appeared distorted in the fogged glass. Pale face, sunken eyes, flashlight trembling in my hand. And then I saw, behind me, in the reflection, a silhouette. Tall, immobile, stopped right behind my left shoulder. My blood froze. Every muscle in my body seized up. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The silhouette had no face, only form, a human presence, but wrong, slightly misaligned proportions. Shoulders too broad. Head tilted at an angle that shouldn't be possible. I turned around. Nothing. The room was empty. Just me, the dim lamp, and the oppressive silence. I looked in the mirror again. The silhouette was still there, but now, closer, about 30 centimeters away. As if it had taken a step while I was looking back. My heart raced. I started backing away toward the door, my eyes fixed on the mirror. The silhouette didn't move, but I felt. She is approaching, not in physical space. Elsewhere, a place just behind reality. My hand found the doorknob. In the mirror, the silhouette raised its arm. slowly, and he pointed at me. I ran away. I didn't care about dignity, about logic, about anything. I ran down the hallway, past the reception desk, bumped my shoulder against the corner of a wall, and kept going. I only stopped when I reached the main exit door. I pushed. It didn't open. I pushed again. Nothing. The door was locked, from the outside. That didn't make sense. I never locked the front door. It was against security protocol, in case of fire, evacuation, emergency. But she was locked up. I tried the side door, locked. Back door, locked. All of them. All the doors that had opened on their own were now closed, sealed, and I was imprisoned. It's 4:27 in the morning. I was sitting on the reception floor, my back to the counter, trying to control my breathing. I had checked all the doors 3 times, all locked. Windows, locked too, or jammed shut by years of paint and rust. My cell phone had no signal. It never did. That stretch of Route 9 was a dead zone. The reception's landline. The line is dead. Just static. I was alone, trapped. And the motel knew it. I tried to rationalize. Dawn will break. Someone will arrive. The manager. The cleaning crew. Someone. But my voice sounded weak even to myself. And a part of me, a part I didn't want to hear, whispered something else. What if nobody comes? What if nobody ever comes? That's when I saw the logbook. It was open on the counter, where I always left it. But the page was different. It wasn't today's. It was old, yellowed. The date at the top read, March 14th, 1986. I hadn't opened that page. I scanned the entries with my eyes. Names, room numbers, check-in times, all handwritten in that old-fashioned cursive script. And then, in the middle of the page, an entry that made me stop. Quarto, 7, J. Milligan, 2345 FH, and right below, with another pen, in hurried, almost illegible handwriting, fire, exits blocked. Milligan didn't get out. My mouth went dry. I knew that story. Everyone who worked there knew it. In 1986, the Motel Estrella Azul caught fire. Electrical problem. 3 guests died, and a night watchman, James Milligan. He had locked the doors during his rounds, standard protocol. When the fire started, he tried to open them to evacuate the guests, but the flames spread too quickly. Thick smoke. Panic. He was disoriented. They found his body in the south corridor. In front of room 7, I dropped the book. My hands were trembling so much I could barely hold it. A thought took shape in my head, slow and inevitable, like water filling my lungs. He's still making his rounds. The doors are opening. The path is forming. Everything is leading to room 7. It wasn't the motel guiding me. Era he, James Milligan, trapped that night, reliving his last moments, trying to save people who no longer exist, locking doors, opening doors, running through the corridors, banging on doors that will never open. And somehow, I had gotten caught in his loop. I looked down the south hallway. The lamp in room 7 was still on. I could see the faint glow leaking under the door. He was waiting for me. I had no choice. If I was going to leave, I had to face it. I had to finish what he couldn't. I stood up. My knees were weak, but I walked anyway. 1 step. Another. The hallway seemed longer than before. The walls leaned slightly, or perhaps my vision was blurring. I arrived at the door of room 7. I placed my hand on the doorknob, and I went in. The room was different now, darker. The bedside lamp was flickering, and on the bed, sitting with his back to me, was him, or what's left of it. I couldn't see her face, only her silhouette, hunched over, motionless, as if she were waiting for something. You're stuck here, I said. My voice came out hoarse. You didn't need to stay. It wasn't your fault. The silhouette did not move. I locked the doors, I continued, just like you did. But I'm going to unlock them. I'm going out, and you can too. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the silhouette rose. It turned to me. It had no face, only darkness. But as Sakung felt, his eyes were on me. And then, he nodded. The light flickered, and when he returned, the room was empty. When the sun rose, I was in the parking lot. All the doors were open. I don't remember how I got out. I only remember lying on the gravel, panting, looking at the sky brightening. The manager found me like that. He said I had fainted, that I must have been exhausted, that I needed to take a few days off. I accepted, but I went back to my shift the following week, because I need the money, and because something inside me knew I had to go back. The door's still open. Not every night, but often enough for me to know it's not over. Sometimes I feel him walking behind me. I hear footsteps that aren't mine. I see the lamp in room 7 on when I know it shouldn't be. But now, I understand. He's not haunting me. He's just doing his rounds, just like I do mine. And every night, the path gets a little shorter. Something happened to me. And to this day, I wake up at 4 a.m. and can't fall back asleep. My name is Raphael. I work, or used to work, as a night receptionist at the Heritage Hotel, one of those boutique establishments in Portland, Oregon. You know those renovated hotels that try to look charming but carry the weight of decades in their walls. That's it. 8 floors, 42 rooms, hallways with worn red carpet and a yellowish lighting that never seemed sufficient. I accepted the night shift 2 years ago, after my divorce. From 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I was the only human being in that reception area. The security guards patrolled the outside. The housekeeper only arrived at 6. I liked it that way. Silence, bad coffee from the machine, Excel spreadsheets, and the sound of rain hitting the windows. Portland rains a lot. You get used to it. But then, he appeared. It was a Tuesday, 4:07 in the morning. I was checking the towel inventory when I heard footsteps. Not the usual sound of guests returning late. They were slow, dragging footsteps. They came from the side hallway. I looked up. There was a man standing in front of me. He was tall, thin, wearing a gray suit that looked dated. You know when you see an outfit and feel like it doesn't belong to this decade? The tie was too thin. The cut was wrong. And his face, pale. Not the paleness of someone who is ill. It was a waxen pallor, deep, dark circles under his eyes, dark hair combed back with brilliantine. He looked at me with a blank expression and said, "Check out, quarter 6:04. The voice was low, emotionless, as if reading from an invisible script. I forced a professional smile and typed it into the system. Nothing. I tried using the room number. Nothing. I tried using his name. He hadn't given his name. "Sir, I'm sorry, but I can't find your check-in record. Could you please provide me with your full name?" He kept staring at me, without blinking. Room 604. I felt a chill run up the back of my neck. It wasn't normal. The temperature around him seemed different, more intense. "Sure, no problem. I'll check directly with management in the morning. Do you have the key to the room?" He reached into his jacket pocket and placed an old key on the counter. It wasn't a magnetic card. It was a metal key, gold-colored, with the number 604 engraved on it. We hadn't used keys like that in years. I picked up the key. It was freezing. Too cold. "Thank you. Have a good day." He nodded slightly and turned. He walked toward the front door. I watched him leave, but here's the part that froze me. He didn't make a sound as he walked. The old carpet always creaked. always. But under his feet, absolute silence. I ran to the door. I looked outside. The street was empty. Light rain. Streetlights reflected on the wet asphalt. He had disappeared. I went back to the counter. The key was still there, cold, real. I grabbed my phone and opened the lobby security cameras. I rewound the last 10 minutes. I appeared on the screen, alone, fiddling with the computer, lifting my head, talking to the void, picking up a key that simply appeared on the counter. There was no one with me in those pictures. Absolutely no one. I didn't sleep that day. I got home at 7:30, took a shower, lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. My mind wouldn't stop racing. I tried to rationalize. System failure, camera glitch, exhaustion. I had pulled many nights in a row. Maybe I was starting to hallucinate, but the key was in my backpack. Heavy, cold, real. I returned to the hotel that night with a knot in my stomach. At 11 a.m., I took up my post. The lobby was empty as always. I turned on my computer, made coffee, put on headphones with some random podcast to distract my mind. Everything normal. Until the clock struck 4:07. The footsteps returned. That drawn-out sound, slow, coming from the same side corridor. I took off my headphones. My heart raced. He was there again. The same man, same gray suit, same waxen pallor, same blank expression. Check out, quarto, 6:04. My mouth went dry. Sir, you were here yesterday, weren't you? He looked at me as if he didn't understand the question. Room 604. I tried to keep my composure. My hands trembled as I typed into the system. Nothing. No record. Again. Sir, do you remember how you checked in? Silence. He tilted his head slightly, like a bird observing something curious. I need to go out. The way he said it. It wasn't an answer. It was a statement. A need. A suppressed despair. Sure. Let me check the room before finalizing. I grabbed the set of master keys and went up in the elevator with him. The silence was suffocating. He stood motionless in the corner, staring at the floor. The temperature inside the cabin was freezing. My breath formed small clouds. 6th floor. We walked down the hallway. I was in front, he was behind. I couldn't hear his footsteps, but I felt his presence, like a pressure in the air. Room 604. I unlocked the door and went inside. The room was normal, bed made, towels folded, everything in its place. But something was wrong. The air was heavy, damp, and cold. Very cold. I looked back. He was standing in the doorway, not going inside. Aren't you going to get your things, sir? I don't have things. I swallowed hard. Okay, I'll just check the bathroom. I went into the bathroom. I turned on the light. Clean sink, spotless mirror. But then I saw, on the wall next to the shower stall, there were marks. Scratches. No, they were deeper, as if someone had pressed their hands forcefully against the wallpaper, several times, desperately. I ran my fingers over the marks. The texture was strange, slightly concave, as if the wall had given way from the inside. I went back to my room. He wasn't there anymore. I ran into the hallway, empty. I went down the stairs as fast as I could. I got to the lobby, empty. I turned the cameras back on. Same thing, me, alone, going up in the elevator, entering room 604, talking to no one. But this time, I noticed a detail. The moment I stepped into the bathroom, the elevator at the end of the hallway moved. It descended from the 6th floor to the ground floor, alone, with no one inside. The next morning, I sought out the manager, Sharon, a pragmatic woman in her 50s. Sharon, I need to know the history of room 604. She looked up from the paperwork. Why? I just need it. She sighed and opened the system. There's nothing special about it. It was renovated in '87. Before that, it was a double suite, then it was divided. Why, Raphael? Has anyone ever disappeared from this room? Her face hardened. Where did you hear that? My blood ran cold. Then it happened. Sharon turned off her computer. It was a long time ago. A guest, 1987, disappeared from the room, locked from the inside, never found. Now tell me, why are you asking this? I didn't answer, because that night he returned. At 4:07 a.m., like always, after the third night, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't tiredness. It was real. In some disturbing and impossible way, it was real. I started taking notes. Everything. Every detail. 4:07 a.m., always. Same suit. Same paleness. Same words. No recording. No cameras. No sound while walking. I searched through the hotel's old archives. I spent hours in the basement storage room, leafing through dusty boxes of documents, old newspapers, police reports, faded photos, and then I found it. July 23, 1987. A guest named Thomas Weyer, 34 years old, checked into room 604. Alone. Business trip. The following morning, the maid tried to enter to clean. The door was locked from the inside. She knocked. No answer. She called security. They broke in. The room was empty. Bed made, windows locked, bathroom empty. No sign of an exit, no sign of a struggle. Thomas Weyer simply disappeared. The police investigated. Nothing. No clues. The case was closed as a voluntary disappearance, although no one understood how he had gotten out of a locked room on the 6th floor. I looked at the photo attached to the report. My stomach churned. It was him. The same face, the same gray suit, the same blank expression. Thomas Weyer was checking out every night, from the room where he disappeared 37 years ago. That night, I was prepared. I set my phone to record. I positioned an extra camera on the counter. I wanted proof. Anything. 4:07. The steps. He appeared. Check out. 6:04. This time, I didn't hesitate. Thomas. He stopped. For the first time, his expression changed. A slight twitch in his face, as if he had heard something in the distance. Thomas Weyer, it's you, isn't it? He took a step back. I need to go out. You've already left. It's been 37 years. I am unable. His voice broke. For the first time, there was emotion, despair, pain. I walked around the counter. I needed to know. I needed to understand. I reached out my hand toward his shoulder. Wait, I can... My fingers touched the fabric of the jacket, and everything went wrong. The sensation was indescribable. It wasn't solid. It wasn't liquid. It was like touching a memory, something that existed and didn't exist at the same time. Icy. So icy it burned. My vision blurred at the edges. I felt my whole body freeze. For a second, maybe less, I saw something. Darkness, tight walls, impossible to breathe, scratching hands, screaming. No one hears, no one comes, just darkness. I fell to my knees on the floor. When I looked up, he had disappeared. My hands were trembling. My breathing was erratic. I looked at the camera I had positioned. Red light off, battery dead. I picked up my cell phone. The recording had stopped at 4:06, 1 minute before he appeared. But I had felt it. I had touched it. I had seen it. He was in prison, not checking out, trying to get out. The next morning, I returned to room 604 with a flashlight and a spatula I'd borrowed from maintenance. I needed to know. I went into the bathroom. The marks on the wall were still there, more visible now, under the direct light. I pressed against the wall. Hollow. I tapped lightly. Empty sound. There was a space there, between the walls. I used the spatula to peel off a small section of the wallpaper. The layer underneath was old plaster, cracked, with a strange seam line, as if it had been opened and closed. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. I pressed the spatula. The plaster gave way. A piece came loose. Cold air came out of the hole. Old air. Dead air. I pointed the flashlight. Within the narrow space between the walls, there were marks, deep scratches in the wood, fragments of gray fabric, and something else, something that looked like bone. I fell backward, hitting my back on the shower stall door. Thomas Wire had never left room 604. He was inside, live sandwich during the 1987 reform. And every night, at 4:07 a.m., he tried to check out. He was trying to leave, but he was imprisoned. Forever. If this made you uncomfortable, wait for the next chapter. I should have gone to the police. I should have told someone. Anyone. But who would believe it? A night receptionist saying he found bones in the wall of a hotel room. That a ghost appears every night asking for checkout. They would think I was using drugs. Or worse. That I had put that stuff there. So I did the only thing that made sense to me at that moment. I decided to spend an entire night in room 604. I told Sharon I was going to do preventive maintenance around the 6th floor. She didn't even question it. I grabbed my backpack with a flashlight, water, my cell phone with an extra battery, and went up at 2 a.m. The 6th floor hallway was silent. That kind of heavy silence that seems to suck sound out. The lights flickered occasionally, casting long shadows on the red carpet. Opened the door to 604. The air was thick, cold, damp. I went inside and locked the door behind me. I sat on the bed. I turned on the flashlight. I waited. 2:30 a.m. Nothing. 3 and some more a.m. The heater started making a low noise. Then it stopped. 3:30 a.m. The temperature dropped. My breath became noticeable. 3:47. That's when I heard talk, talk, talk. Beats. Weak. Rhythmic. Coming from inside the bathroom wall. I stood up slowly. My whole body was tense. Every muscle was screaming at me to get out of there. But I needed to know. I went into the bathroom. The light flickered twice before stabilizing. Talk, talk, talk. Higher now. Coming from the side wall. Exactly where I had found the hole. I pressed my hand against the wallpaper. The surface was vibrating. No, it's not vibrating. Pressing. As if something on the other side was breathing. The banging stopped. Absolute silence. And then I heard it. A muffled voice. Distant, as if it were coming from very far away. Please. My blood froze. Please. Get me out of here. It wasn't his voice. It wasn't the calm, empty voice he used every night. It was something else. It was pain. It was despair. It was pure terror. I can't get out. I can't get out. I can't get out. The voice grew louder. Echoing, repeating, overlapping. The light went out. I turned on the flashlight with trembling hands. The hole I had made in the wall was open, bigger, as if something had forced its way in from the inside. I pointed the flashlight inside. Here you go. Fingernail marks. Hundreds of them. Deep scratches in the wood and plaster. Some still had fragments. Dark blood. Dried. Decades old. More fabric. A piece of tie. A shirt button. And deep down, where my flashlight could barely reach, bones. A partially exposed skull turned to the side, as if it had tried to scream until the very last second. I stepped back. I slammed my back against the door. The bathroom light came back on by itself, and in the mirror behind me, I saw he was there, Thomas Wire, not in his calm and empty form, but as he truly was, pale, sunken eyes, mouth open in a silent scream, hands outstretched towards me, as if begging. I turned around quickly. Nothing. The bathroom was empty. I looked back at myself in the mirror. He was still there, staring at me. Without blinking. Run. I unlocked the door. I rushed out of the room. I went down the stairs without looking back. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it was going to explode. I arrived in the lobby. Empty. Silent. The clock showed 4:07 a.m., and then I heard the footsteps. Slow. Dragging. Coming from the side corridor. No, not again. Not now. But he showed up, as always. Calm, composed, as if nothing had happened. Checkout. Quarto 6:04. I was breathless, sweating, trembling. I know what happened to you. He looked at me. For the first time, his eyes seemed sad. I know you're in prison. I need to go out. I'll help you. I swear. I'll tell someone. I'll make them open that wall. It won't. His voice changed. Deeper. More real. Nobody ever believes it. Tears streamed down my face without me even realizing it. I believe. He gave a small, sad smile. Thanks. And it disappeared. For the first time since this began, I cried. There, alone in that cold Portland reception area, I wept for a man who died almost 40 years ago, trying to escape from a hotel room, and that he was still trying, every night. At 4:07 a.m., I resigned the following morning. I didn't explain. I didn't give details. I just said I needed to leave. Sharon tried to convince me to stay, but I'd already made up my mind. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stay in that place knowing what I knew. But before leaving, I tried one last thing. I went to the manager's office with all the notes, photos of the hole in the wall, printouts of old reports, the metal key he had given me on the first night. Sharon, I need you to listen. Room 604. There's something inside the walls. There's... Raphael, stop. She looked at me with that expression I feared. Pity, worry. You're exhausted. Night shifts do that to people. I've seen it before. You need to rest. I can't believe it. There are bones inside that wall. There are... That's enough. She raised her hand. If you keep spreading this, I'll have to involve HR. Do you understand? This is sensitive. For the hotel. For our reputation. I understood at that moment. She knew. Maybe not the details, maybe not the whole truth. But she knew something was wrong in that room. And she chose to ignore it. Because it was easier. Because it was better for business. I grabbed my backpack and left, but I couldn't let it go. On subsequent nights, even at home, I would wake up at 4:07 a.m. Always, like clockwork. And then I started to see him. Not at the hotel. Elsewhere. In the reflection of the bus window. Stopped on the corner as I passed by. At the back of a 24-hour store. Always the same gray suit. Always the same blank expression. Watching me. 2 weeks later, I returned to the Heritage Hotel. In the middle of the night. Without warning anyone. I entered through the side entrance. I went up the stairs to the 6th floor. I stopped in front of room 604. The door was ajar. I pushed slowly. The room was different. Empty. No furniture. As if they were preparing for renovations. I went into the bathroom. The wall had been covered. New plaster. Fresh paint. Impeccable wallpaper. They had closed the hole. Without investigating, without asking, they just covered it up. I pressed my hand against the surface. It was still cold. And then I heard his voice. Low. Distant. I can't get out. Collected. I tried. I swear I tried. I know. The light flickered. When he returned, he was at the bathroom door. Thomas Wire, or what was left of him. But this time, he wasn't calm. He was different, more solid, more present. "You're the only one who truly saw me." My voice came out weak. "Why me?" "Because you're alone, just like me." I felt a shiver run down my spine. "What do you want from me?" He took a step forward. "I just wanted to check out." His hand reached out toward mine, slowly. But now, I don't know anymore if I want to go out alone. My heart stopped. That wasn't a cry for help. It was an invitation. Run. I left that room, that floor, that hotel, and I never went back. Today, 3 months later, I'm in another state, another job, another shift. But every night, at 4:07 a.m., I wake up, and sometimes, when I look in the bathroom mirror, I see him, standing behind me, waiting. And the worst part of all, I started to wonder if I really did leave that room, or if I'm still there, checking out, every night, forever. Because when I look at the form he gave me on the first night, the one I kept in my backpack and never showed to anyone, there's something written there that I hadn't seen before. In the checkout date field, it says, "Never." And right below, in shaky, almost illegible handwriting, "Help others. If you listen to the end, you're already one of us." Subscribe so you don't miss the next whisper. I promised myself I'd never go up to the 3rd floor again. But some promises you break just to survive. My name is Gabriel, and I work as a night receptionist at the Pine Ridge Motel, one of those forgotten buildings on the side of Interstate 40, in the middle of nowhere between Amarillo and Albuquerque. The kind of place where truckers stop to sleep for 3 hours and continue their journey before sunrise. The kind of place that smells of stale coffee, cheap disinfectant, and loneliness. I accepted the graveyard shift after my life fell apart. I won't go into details, but let's just say I preferred the company of the silence and dim lights of an empty motel to anything that reminded me of what I'd lost. I work alone from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. 8 hours of empty hallway, static on the radio, and the constant hum of the soda fridge behind the counter. Most nights are monotonous. I make my rounds, check the old cameras that barely work, update the system, software from the 90s that crashes more than it responds. Sometimes a guest comes down, asking for extra towels or complaining about the heater. Nothing out of the ordinary. But there's one room that has always bothered me. 306. 3rd floor, last door in the L-shaped corridor. In the system, it appears as occupied for weeks. I never gave a key to anyone specifically requesting this room. I never saw anyone go up with luggage. No check-in record. Nothing. I asked Steve, the afternoon shift manager, and he just shrugged. The system must be down again. Just ignore it. I ignored it. Until the first call. It was a Tuesday, 3:17 in the morning. I was reading an old magazine when the reception phone rang. Not the desk phone, the one inside the system. The one that only rings when a guest calls from a room. I answered automatically. "Pine Ridge, front desk. How can I help you?" Silence. But not that silent, deadline kind of silence. It was heavy, as if someone were holding the phone very close to their mouth, but saying nothing. I listened, breathing, light, controlled. "Hello?" I tried again. Nothing. I looked at the phone screen. Room 306. I felt a shiver run down the back of my neck, but I shook my head. Technical glitch. Interference. I don't know. I hung up. The call came back 3 minutes later. Same breathing. Even silence. Same room. 306. This time, I let it play until it stopped. When the silence returned, I noticed something that unsettled me. The 3rd floor hallway, visible through the blurry camera on the monitor, was completely empty. And the light in room 306 was on. The calls were repeated. every night, always at 3:17 a.m., always from room 306. I started writing things down. I don't know why. Maybe to convince myself I wasn't going crazy. Maybe to have proof that it was real. Tuesday, 3:17 a.m., phone call, breath, 48 seconds, hung up by itself. Wednesday, 3:17 a.m., phone call, breath, 1 minute and 3 seconds, hung up by itself. Thursday, 3:17 a.m., phone call, heavier breathing, 2 minutes, hung up when I said, "I know you're there." On Friday, I decided to go up, but not at night. I'm not an idiot. I waited until 10 a.m. high when the sun beat down on the dusty hallway windows and the motel seemed less oppressive. I grabbed the master key and climbed the creaking stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled of mildew and mothballs. The light fixtures flickered occasionally. Worn carpet, peeling wallpaper on the walls. Absolute silence. I arrived at the door of 306. I stopped. The Do Not Disturb sign was hanging on the doorknob. I didn't remember her being there before. I pressed my ear against the door. Nothing. No sound. I knocked lightly. "Hello. Front desk. Just checking if everything's okay." Nothing. I hit harder. Silence. I peeked through the crack under the door. The light was on inside. Shadows of furniture. Everything seemed normal. I hesitated, but I used the master key. The door opened slowly, groaning on its hinges. The room was clean. The bed was made to hospital-quality perfection. The curtains were half closed. Everything was in its place. No sign of mess, no suitcases, no clothes lying around. But something was wrong. On the bedside table, next to the hotel Bible, was a cup of coffee, and it was smoking. My heart raced. I approached slowly. The steam rose in thin spirals. The liquid was still hot. I could feel the heat radiating from it. I looked into the bathroom. The door was ajar. The light was off. "Hello?" My voice came out trembling. Nothing. I took 2 steps toward the bathroom, but my whole body was screaming at me to get out of there. I turned my back and left quickly, locking the door behind me. I ran down the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. At the reception desk, I tried to calm myself. It was the chambermaid. It had to be. She should have gone in before me, forgotten the coffee, and left through the back stairs. I called her. "Marie, did you go into 306 this morning?" 306? "No, honey. That room has been locked for weeks. I don't even have a key to it." I hung up. I went to the small security monitor that records the hallway cameras. I fast-forwarded through the footage from the last 72 hours. No one went up to the 3rd floor. Nobody entered room 306. Nobody left. But that night, at 3:17 a.m., the phone rang again, and this time, when I answered, I heard a voice, weak, hoarse, almost inaudible. "I saw you." I didn't sleep after that night. I sat on my couch at home, staring at the wall, trying to process that voice. "I saw you." 3 words, simple, direct, but spoken with a certainty that chilled me to the bone. I considered not going back, calling Steve, making up some excuse, quitting my job, but I needed the job. And a part of me, the stupid, curious, self-destructive part, wanted answers. So I came back. Saturday night, 11 p.m. shift. The motel was emptier than usual. Only 2 rooms were occupied. One on the 1st floor, the other on the 2nd. The 3rd floor remained deserted, except for the 306, of course. I decided I was going to settle this once and for all. At 2 a.m., I grabbed the master key, a flashlight, and climbed the stairs. Each step creaked as if it were shouting my arrival. The air grew colder as I went up. When I got to the 3rd floor, the temperature plummeted. My breath came out in white clouds. The lights flickered erratically, creating distorted shadows on the walls. I walked slowly down the hallway, and with each step, I had the distinct feeling that someone was walking behind me. I stopped. I turned around. Empty hallway. But the sound of footsteps continued for another 2 seconds before ceasing. My whole body wanted to run away, but I kept going. I arrived in front of number 306. I pressed my ear against the door. Silence. Then I heard it. Water running. As if someone had turned on the bathroom tap. Then, the sound of something being dragged. Furniture. A chair. I banged on the door forcefully. "I know someone's in there. Open the door." The sound stopped immediately. Absolute silence. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. 1 minute. Nothing. I put the key in the lock. My hands were trembling. I turned it slowly. The lock released with a metallic click. I pushed the door open. The room was dark, but I could see the outlines of the furniture in the dim light from the hallway. I felt along the wall for the light switch. I found it. I turned it on. The bed was unmade. The sheets were crumpled, as if someone had just gotten up. The pillow was sunken, still bearing the imprint of a head. And on the floor, next to the bed, a wet towel. I looked into the bathroom. The door was open. The light was off, but I could see steam coming out of it. "Hello?" My voice came out shaky. I took a step toward the bathroom. Another. I stopped in the doorway. The mirror was completely fogged up, and on the fogged glass, writing with a finger, there were letters. "I saw you." My blood froze. I took 1 step back, 2, 3. Then I felt it. A draft of icy air passed by me, as if someone had run right past me. The bedroom door slammed shut. I ran. I turned the doorknob desperately, opened the door, went out, stumbled down the stairs, almost falling, until I reached the reception area. I locked the glass door behind me. I sat on the floor, panting, sweating profusely. I stayed there until the sun rose, and when Steve arrived at 7 a.m., I was still shaking. "Dude, are you okay?" I didn't answer. I just looked at him and whispered, "Is anyone in room 306? If this made you uncomfortable, wait for the next chapter." Steve came up with me. I insisted. I said I needed a witness, someone who saw what I saw. He complained, but agreed. We went up together, in silence, to the 3rd floor. When we arrived at 306, the door was locked. Steve opened it with his master key. The room was spotless, bed made, towel hung in the bathroom, clean mirror, no messages, no steam, nothing. "Do you see anything wrong here, Gabriel?" I stood there, looking around, searching for any sign of what I had seen hours before. Nothing. I saw... "You're working too alone, man. Go home. Rest, come back on Monday." I went, but I didn't rest. I spent the entire Sunday thinking about it. Had I imagined it? Was the tiredness, the chronic insomnia, the loneliness, making me see things? But I knew what I had seen. Monday night, I went back to my shift. I promised myself I wouldn't go up to the 3rd floor, that I would ignore room 306, that I would let it go. But at 3:17 a.m., the phone rang. I looked at the screen, room 306. Wait. Breathing. Then, the same hoarse voice. "Why did you run away?" I hung up immediately. My hands were trembling. I looked at the security camera monitor. The 3rd floor was empty, as always. But then, I realized something. A figure, standing in the middle of the hallway, back to the camera, motionless. I blinked. I looked again. It disappeared. My heart raced. I stared at the screen, trying to understand. I rewound the images. I played it again. The figure appeared for 3 seconds, standing in front of building 306. Then, nothing. Static, only. I was about to get up when I realized the phone next to me, the reception phone, not the system phone, was off the hook. I hadn't taken it off. I looked around. The lobby was empty. The doors were locked. Just me. I slowly picked up the earphone and put it to my ear. On the other end of the line, my own voice, below. I dropped the phone. It hit the counter with a dry thud. I looked at the monitor. The figure was back, This time, closer to the camera, turned towards me. I couldn't see the face, only the outline, but I could feel the eyes fixed on me through the grainy screen. The lobby lights flickered. Once. Two. They deleted it. I was left in complete darkness. I heard footsteps. They weren't coming from the stairs. They were coming from behind me, dragged along. Slow, closer and closer. I turned on my phone's flashlight, turned around. Nothing. The lights came back on. The lobby was empty, but on the monitor screen, the image was still there. Stop in the hallway on the 3rd floor. And this time, I noticed something that made me forget to breathe. She was wearing the motel uniform, the same one I used. I could no longer run away. Whatever was happening, it needed to end. That night or never. At 3:30 in the morning, I picked up the master key one last time and went up to the 3rd floor. Each step was a struggle against instinct screaming at me to turn back. The hallway was freezing. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped the flashlight. The lights flickered erratically, creating shadows that seemed to move on their own. I arrived at number 306. The door was ajar. It wasn't like that when Steve came up with me. I was sure of it. I pushed slowly. The hinges groaned. Light from the hallway flooded the room, revealing shapes in the dim light. I went in. The room was occupied. There were clothes thrown on the chair, shoes beside the bed, an open suitcase in the corner, documents scattered on the small table. Everything seemed alive, recent, as if someone actually lived there. I picked up one of the papers. It was a receipt. Pine Ridge Motel. Date, 3 months ago. Guest's name, illegible, blurred. I picked up another document, an old photo, the motel, the hallway, the uniform, and it was a face I recognized. It was me. But it wasn't. The photo was years old. The quality was poor, grainy, but the resemblance was undeniable. Same height, same hair, same hunched posture. I'll turn the photo over. On the back, handwritten in shaky script, Gabriel, night shift, 2024. My handwriting. My stomach churned. I dropped the photo. That's when I heard the footsteps, behind me. Slow. Heavy. I turned around slowly. Nothing. But I felt it. An icy hand touched my shoulder. Long fingers, cold as ice, squeezing tightly. I closed my eyes. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. "You never left, Gabriel." The voice was mine, distorted, hollow. I opened my eyes. I turned my head. Nothing behind me. But when I looked in the bathroom mirror, a figure stood right behind me. Pale face, empty eyes, mouth slightly open. "You." I blinked, and I was back at reception, sitting in the chair, morning light streaming through the windows. The clock read 7:03 a.m. I didn't remember getting off. I heard the door open. Steve came in with his coffee and that tired expression of his as always. "Dude, you stayed here all night again." I didn't answer. I just looked at him, still trying to process it. "You look pale. Seriously, go home and rest." "Steve," my voice came out hoarse. "Was anyone in 306 tonight?" He frowned. "Did he?" "Of course. The guy who's been there for months." My heart stopped. What face? I don't know his name. "He pays in advance, always in cash. I never see him leave. I think he works nights or something." "Why?" I froze. "Steve, I've never checked anyone in for room 306. He shrugged. "It must have been in the afternoon shift then." He went to the computer, typed something, and turned the screen towards me. "Look, here it is. Room 306. Occupied since September. Payment up to date." I looked at the screen. There was a name, but it was too blurry to read. "Do you have a photo?" Steve clicked. The image loaded. I felt the ground disappear from beneath my feet. It was me, in the registration photo, me, looking straight at the camera, expressionless. Dude, are you okay? I wasn't there. I opened the security recordings. I went back to the early morning hours. 3:17 a.m. Here you go. Me, going up the stairs, entering the third-floor hallway, stopping in front of 306. Every night, for weeks. I didn't remember any of those times. I got up from the chair, stumbling. I looked at Steve. I need to go. I ran out. I got in my car. I drove non-stop until I was far away from that place. But that night, at 3:17 a.m., my cell phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Silence. Then, my own voice. You know you'll be back. I still work at Pine Ridge. Room 306 remains occupied, and every morning at 3:17 a.m., my phone rings.